A man who sells ice cream for $3 a cone, barely making rent himself, had just turned his ice cream van to an ambulance. Welcome back to Acts of Kindness Stories, where real kindness writes the best stories. Briarhaven wasn't the kind of place you'd find on a postcard. No dramatic skyline, no famous landmarks. Just a small American town tucked between rolling hills and forgotten highways, where front porches creaked with age, neighbors waved whether they knew your name or not, and news traveled faster than the morning paper. Spring had settled gently over Willow Street that Thursday, leaving behind the scent of wet earth and blooming dogwood. Vendors lined the curbs, setting up their usual spots. Among them sat the most beloved fixture in town, Frosty Joe's Treats, a white and blue ice cream truck plastered with cartoon sprinkles and a grinning sundae that looked like it had seen better decades. Inside, Joe Callahan, 42 years old with sandy hair that never quite stayed in place and brown eyes that seemed to hold every ounce of warmth the world had forgotten, wiped down his counter for the third time that morning. Joe wasn't wealthy. He wasn't connected. But everyone in Briarhaven knew him. Not because he was loud or flashy, but because his kindness was the kind that showed up quietly, consistently, like the first star at dusk. Across the street, Emma Harris gripped her daughter's hand a little too tightly. Her jaw was set, her eyes scanning the pharmacy ahead like it held the answer to a question she'd been asking for weeks. Beside her, 7-year-old Lily dragged her feet, her cheeks flushed with an unnatural heat that made Emma's stomach twist. "Mommy, my tummy hurts again," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible over the morning chatter. Emma knelt down fast, pressing the back of her hand against Lily's forehead. "Too hot. Way too hot. I know, baby. We're almost there. Just a few more steps, okay?" Lily nodded, but her eyes were glassy, unfocused. Emma had been fighting for months, working double shifts at the diner, picking up laundry gigs on weekends, skipping meals so her kids wouldn't have to. The bills kept piling up anyway. Rent, utilities, medical debt from her son's surgery last year. She'd been treading water so long she'd forgotten what solid ground felt like. They were halfway to the pharmacy when Lily's hand went limp. Emma felt the weight shift. "Lily." The little girl's knees buckled and she collapsed straight into her mother's arms. "Help." Emma's voice ripped through the street, raw and desperate. "Somebody, please. My daughter, she's not breathing right. Help." Heads turned. Conversations paused. A woman clutched her purse tighter and walked faster. A man glanced over, shook his head and muttered something about kids being dramatic. An older couple stopped, whispered to each other, then kept moving. Emma's heart pounded so loud she could barely hear herself screaming. "Please. Anyone." Joe was wiping down a cone dispenser when he heard the scream. He looked up, saw the crowd parting around a woman on her knees, and his body moved before his mind caught up. He threw the rag down, vaulted out of the truck and sprinted across Willow Street, weaving between cars that honked at him like he was the problem. He dropped to his knees beside Emma, his voice calm but urgent. "Hey, what's going on?" Emma's hands were shaking. "She fainted, she's been sick for days, I don't know what's wrong." Joe's eyes moved to Lily. Her breathing was shallow, her lips pale. He gently tapped her cheek. "Sweetheart, can you hear me?" "Nothing." He looked up at Emma and his expression shifted into something steady, something anchoring. "You're not alone right now. I'm right here. We're gonna get her help." Emma blinked through tears. "I was trying to get to the pharmacy." "Forget the pharmacy," Joe said, already scooping Lily into his arms with the kind of care you'd reserve for something sacred. "We're going to the clinic. Right now." "But your truck." Joe was already moving. "Ice cream melts. She doesn't get a second chance." He carried Lily to his van, Emma stumbling behind him, her breath coming in gasps. He buckled the little girl into the passenger seat, her head lolling against the window, and slid into the driver's seat without hesitation. The engine roared to life. Emma climbed into the back, her hands gripping the seat in front of her. "I don't even know your name." Joe, he said, eyes on the road. And you don't need to know anything else right now except that we're gonna get her there. His knuckles were white against the steering wheel. Emma kept whispering, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," like a prayer she couldn't stop saying. Joe shook his head each time. "You'd do the same." But Emma knew better. Most people wouldn't. Briarhaven Medical Center sat on the edge of town, a squat brick building that always smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. Joe pulled up to the entrance, threw the van into park, and carried Lily through the automatic doors like she weighed nothing. The nurse at the front desk looked up, annoyed. "We're backed up this morning. You'll have to wait." Joe's voice cut through, firm but controlled. "This little girl just fainted in the street. She needs a doctor right now." Something in his tone made the nurse pause. She glanced at Lily, then hit a button on her desk. "Dr. Brennan, we need you up front." A middle-aged doctor with graying temples appeared within seconds, took one look at Lily and motioned them back. "Exam room 3. Now." Joe set Lily down on the table as gently as he'd picked her up. The doctor started checking vitals immediately. Pulse, temperature, breathing. Emma stood frozen in the corner, her hands covering her mouth. Joe touched her shoulder. "Breathe. She's in good hands." Emma's voice cracked. "I've been trying so hard. I work nights at the diner, mornings at the laundry house. I'm barely keeping up with rent. I thought I could handle it. Thought I could push through. But I'm failing her." Joe turned to face her fully, his expression soft but unwavering. "You're not failing her. You're fighting for her. And that's the only thing that matters." Emma's tears came harder. "I don't even know how to thank you." Joe smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. "Well, Lily can have free ice cream until she's 50. How's that?" Despite everything, Emma laughed. It was small, shaky, but real. Dr. Brennan returned an hour later with a chart in his hands and a look that made Emma's stomach drop. "Mrs. Harris, we need to talk." Emma stood up too fast. "What's wrong?" "Your daughter has a bacterial infection. Rare but treatable. The problem is, the medication she needs isn't something we keep on hand. We'll have to order it and she'll need to start treatment as soon as possible." Emma nodded quickly. Hey, whatever she needs." "How much?" Dr. Brennan hesitated. "The medication and initial treatment will run about $2,000. Up front." The room tilted. Emma's voice came out thin. $2,000. "I'm sorry. Insurance might cover." "I don't have insurance right now," Emma whispered. "I'm behind on the payments. They froze my plan last month." Joe watched her face go pale. He looked at the doctor, then back at Emma, then at the floor. His jaw worked like he was chewing on a decision. Finally he stood. "I'll be right back." Emma grabbed his arm. "Joe, where are you?" "Trust me," he said. "I'll be right back." Joe didn't go home. He didn't call a nonprofit. He didn't try to sweet-talk the billing department. He drove straight back to Frosty Joe's Treats, flung open the service window, and grabbed the largest metal pan he had. He taped a handwritten sign to the front of the truck in bold letters. "Help Lily. A little girl in Briarhaven needs urgent medication. Any amount saves her life." Then he grabbed his megaphone, the ridiculous one he used for 2-for-1 Tuesdays, and flipped it on. His voice boomed across Willow Street. "Folks, if you've ever bought a cone from me, if I've ever made you smile on a hot day, I need you now. A child in this town needs us." People stopped, turned, stared. At first no one moved. Then Mrs. Lennox, the owner of the quilting shop, shuffled over and dropped a crumpled $10 bill into the pan. "For the little one," she said quietly. That broke the dam. A group of teenagers pooled their lunch money and added it. A truck driver passing through handed Joe a $100 bill without a word. A father buying cones for his twin boys added a 50 and said, "I've got 2 daughters at home. I can't imagine." Every few minutes Joe shouted updates. "We're at 500. Then, we're halfway. Then, we're almost there." People who had walked past Emma earlier now came forward, shame written across their faces, but gratitude in their hands. The pan filled, then overflowed. Joe grabbed a second pan. Within an hour, the total hit $2,687. Joe stared at the money, his throat tight. He closed the truck window, clutched both pans to his chest, and ran full sprint back to the clinic. Emma was still sitting in the hallway, staring at nothing, when Joe came barreling through the doors, sweaty and breathless, holding two metal pans like they contained the most precious cargo in the world. Joe. Emma stood up, confused. What? He set the pans on the chair beside her. Briarhaven happened. Emma looked down at the bills, tens, twenties, hundreds, all crumpled and stacked and overflowing. Her hands flew to her mouth. No. No, Joe, this is too much, I can't. Joe placed a hand gently on her wrist. You're not taking charity, Emma. You're accepting hope. And this town wanted to give it. Emma broke. She sobbed, quiet, shaking sobs, and Joe pulled her into a hug, letting her cry into his shoulder while the clinic buzzed around them. Dr. Brennan appeared, saw the money, and nodded once. We'll start treatment immediately. Lily's treatment began that evening. The little girl slept peacefully for the first time in a week, her fever finally breaking. Emma sat beside the bed, holding Lily's hand, whispering thank yous to a God she'd almost stopped believing in. Joe stood in the doorway, watching, his heart so full it hurt. Emma looked up at him through tears. You saved her. Joe shook his head. This town saved her. I was just the guy with the ice cream truck. Emma smiled through the tears. The right guy. At the right time. 2 weeks later, Lily was back on her feet, giggling, drawing pictures of rainbows, begging her mom for a puppy. The infection was gone. Her energy had returned. Her smile could light up a room. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Emma and Lily showed up at Frosty Joe's Treats. A small crowd had gathered. Neighbors who'd heard they were coming and wanted to be part of whatever happened next. Joe looked up from the counter and saw them approaching. Emma? What's this? Lily stepped forward, holding a handmade card covered in crayon hearts and ice cream cones. On the front, in wobbly letters, Joe is my hero. Joe took it carefully, his voice catching. I've never gotten a medal cooler than this. The crowd laughed softly. Emma handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a laminated card, decorated with stickers. Good for one meal every Sunday at the Harris home. Valid forever. Joe laughed, genuine and warm. I accept. Emma smiled. I can't pay you back with money, Joe. But I can feed you. And I can say thank you every single week. Joe nodded. That's more than enough. Someone started clapping. Then everyone joined in, not loud or dramatic, just honest. A reporter from the county newspaper stepped forward. Mr. Callahan, why did you do it? Joe looked at Lily, then at Emma. Because no child should fight alone. Not while I'm still around. Months later, when Briarhaven looked back on that spring, they didn't talk about the fear or the hospital bills. They talked about the man who sold ice cream but carried a heart big enough to move a town. They talked about neighbors who became family. They talked about how kindness, when multiplied, becomes unstoppable. So let me ask you, what will you multiply today? Smile. A moment of your time? Because kindness doesn't need to be grand. It just needs to be given. Kindness needs to be given. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story like this. Real kindness is happening every day and you don't want to miss it. Drop a comment below about a time someone showed up for you. And share this video with someone who needs to remember that good people still exist. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.